Hello, welcome to Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. The recent 2-day loss in the stock market is big news. If you go back to early February, that's when the stock market hit its all-time high, very early February. So in the Donald Trump presidency, it's gone from that early high, basically, to where we are now. It's estimated that in that time period, those 2 months, the stock market now, after these 2 horrendous days, has lost $10 trillion of value. And I want to use a couple of examples to show you the hypocrisy of some things or the craziness of some things. To bring it home for you, we know that in stocks aren't just regular people owning them. Corporations own stocks of other corporations. But then, if their stocks are owned by people, the mutual fund companies own them, but their shares are bought by people. There are people in foreign countries who own shares in American companies, or governments in foreign countries, or their money managers that own stocks. But basically, it all comes down to the people of the world owning them, even if a large majority are owned by just a few people. The reason I went into that crazy explanation is I want you to suspend reality just for a moment. There are 71 million 401k accounts in America. There's 330 million people. So some people, don't have them, unfortunately. And if we take those 71 million and just suspend reality about foreign corporations and foreign investors and all that, if each one of those accounts had an equal investment in the total stock market and each one lost the same amount, that would be the average 401k losing $140,000 each. 2/3 of that in the last 2 days. If you own 7 times the amount of average going in your 401k, you would have lost $1 million. All right? That is a pretty shocking number when you think about the people of the world that have to get up on Monday and go to work. Also, think of it in terms of our national debt. Now, for decades, I just heard Republicans saying, complaining, and conservative people, oh, our debt's too high, what are we going to do about the debt? And whatever happens, it always seems to tie into Social Security, doesn't it? We have to get rid of those things because we can't afford them anymore. We have too much debt. The amount lost in the stock market in 2 months, if people had and corporations and everybody had just willingly given up that money instead of losing it, that would have paid off 30% of our national debt. Just think of that. But instead, we just lost it. Because of Liberation Day, for one thing, and the fear of it beforehand. Wouldn't it be nice if 30% of our national debt was paid off? That would change so much. We'd fund child cancer research again. We'd set up the suicide hotlines for veterans again. It would change so much. Instead, it's just like, oh no, you can't raise my taxes. And matter of fact, probably they would just say, well, give me a tax cut. I'm sure that's what they're doing, because they're doing it now when we haven't paid down the debt. They're just looking at a tax cut for billionaires. I wish we had a country that was more concerned about people again. But we're going to have to wait for that. Just think of those things when you hear people complaining about the national debt. $10 trillion gone. But if you raise taxes by $1 billion, they go nuts. And our president, this is probably the most worrisome thing to me. You know, I used to do stock market stuff, talk about the stock market before I was doing this. And the reason I stopped was because Trump was elected. And I said, he'll change the market on a dime and then change it back. He could start next week just saying, hey, no tariffs. We decide against them. Not a good idea. Boy, would the market soar then. I wonder who would own that stock. But anyway, he comes down on Wednesday afternoon and he holds up this order of tariffs that people don't even know how he got this information. But anyway, and we've heard about the penguins being taxed and all that. He holds up this tariff. Didn't it remind you of Moses in the Ten Commandments? I almost expected him to throw it to the ground and open up the chasm that sucked in all the bad people who were worshiping the false idol. Except he's the false idol. He said, put up on Twitter, only the weak will perish. This is Donald Trump's language. Only the weak will perish. Why should anybody perish? People don't have to perish. All you have to do is take the taxes back. Why are you insisting that we must go in? I mean, like, it's in those horror movies when it's like, oh, we got to see what that noise from the garage came from when you knew there was a murderer already. And they go into the garage. Why you go? You don't have to go into the garage unless you want to make the rest of the movie. But you can stay out of the garage. So now his sycophants on the news, they're saying things like, oh, it's okay because every day is Christmas with Donald Trump. You don't really need money. I think we're not allowed to say that the next time we ask for a tax increase on the rich people. You don't really need money. Every day is Christmas with Trump. We elected him. We have to give him time, meaning he hasn't been able to destroy everything yet. We got to give him more time for that. And trust Donald Trump. We have to trust him. We elected him. I don't trust him, and I don't have to trust him, and I don't want to trust him. I just plain don't trust him. That's the last person in the world I would trust. Him and Elon. And that Commerce Secretary, Lutkin, who's always smiling when Trump makes a joke like, look, Mr. President, I'm laughing at your joke. Yeah. So we're getting that if we don't like this, we're weak and we should perish. Okay. Happy Liberation Day. Can you imagine? He's talking about being the doctor and there's a patient, and the patient's the economy. You know, it's like the patient has a sprained wrist and he goes in and he says, doctor, I think I have a sprained wrist, but it might be broken. What do you think? And the doctor hits him in the head with a hammer. And every day after that, he keeps going in and hitting him with a hammer. Or with those paddles. Clear. Clear. And then afterwards, when the patient dies, he goes, oh, I didn't know that patient. I never met that patient. Where were all the stock market money managers? Why didn't they tell people that they're charging 6% or something a year to manage their money, or 2% or whatever? Maybe we should lighten your portfolio. Why didn't they say that 2 weeks ago to people? I know people who have these managers. No one came up to them and said, this looks bad. Can we just put your money in a money market fund for a little while and we could rebuy everything if we find out he didn't destroy it? And they always say, how many times have you heard this? Well, if you missed the best 10 days of the year in the stock market, you're not going to make any money. But they never say anything about missing the worst 2 days in a row in the stock market in a year. That certainly would help your overall return. Gosh. Yeah, I'm down. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of money in stocks, and you cannot be long-term in the stock market with President Trump. It's really hard. I'm trying. So that's my thought on this president who thinks we don't need money, and who, by the way, on his golf course this weekend, reportedly said, this is just reportedly, because I can't find anything to back this up. I don't give an F, only he didn't say F. I don't give a F. Okay. When asked about stock market accounts, car prices, things like that. That's frightening too. Because on that, I really do believe him. As Bill Clinton famously said in that one speech at a convention, now that I believe. I don't think he cares about us. He's doing stuff to make everybody's life harder. So we get some low-paying factory jobs back. Is that worth this? Leave your thoughts and comments below. Like, subscribe. That'll never happen, but anyway, leave your comments below. Just watch the damn thing, okay? This has been Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. Have a great day.